Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. After a little bit of a hiatus, we've both I've been travelling for work and Chris has been travelling for holidays, which we'll definitely get into. But how have you been, Chris?
I have been excellent. I had an amazing trip to southern Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've only ever been to Venice, and that was on a day trip when I was holidaying in Croatia. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested to learn a lot more about Italy. Well, should we kick it off with a wristwatch check?
Sure. I brought 3 watches with me on holiday. I had my Bell & Ross GMT, my everyday.
Yep.
I had my Zin 104, and then I brought a Casio Solar in case times got hard. But I have my Bell & Ross GMT, which I had no problem. And I think for me, I won't set it to local time so I'll just use the bezel to sort of set my time.
All right.
I won't actually set it to local time unless I'm going to be there for more than a week. And so on day 2, I took my time and I set local Italy time, UTC, and then I rotated the bezel to know what time it was in California. And so for the rest of the trip, I could just look at my watch and be like, everyone is asleep. So I've got that on. I've got that on today, and I just set it back because I'm catching up, and you do that. You leave it set to sort of reminisce about what time it is in your brain, and then after about a day of that, you're like, all right, it's 5:30 in the morning. I need to change this.
Yeah, it's always tricky, that, isn't it? When you're moving time zones, significant.
Yeah. So 9 hours from California. It was a 12-hour flight. We flew direct from LAX to Rome, which was but no transfers, which is also fun. So, but GMT holding it down, no problem.
Oh, awesome! I've not got anything eventful on. I'm wearing a Garmin because I pretty much sold all of my watches with the exception of the Rolexes and this Garmin, and of course the watches that I inherited. If anyone's seen me do a state of the collection review, I've got 3 watches that I inherited from my 2 granddads and my father-in-law. I was surprised, but not shocked. So I've known Sam long enough to know this was probably purge number 3 since I've known you. Probably. I mean, I've always been consistently selling watches, but yeah, I definitely felt like having a clear out, because I really was only selling. I really was only wearing 2 watches, honestly. That date there's just something about the case and everything. Somebody actually made a video today, and it's I think the YouTube is Your Terrific YouTube channel, and he said the date just was boring, which is not the case.
I saw that.
All. I think it's an absolute icon.
He kind of went on. I just saw that video. He went on a little bit of a tangent with the weird Cyclops and the sort of the unexciting dial and hands. It was tough. I was like, I got about halfway through the video and I was like, I don't know. I feel the opposite. I think that, like, especially the 2 he had the blue dial. Like, I could see being bored with that, because blue doesn't go with everything. But that white dial that he had was like perfect. That white dial, perfect 3-hander. Awesome. Yeah.
Mine's green, the green dial, and that Jubilee bracelet that Rolex make is just it's awesome.
But
it's a real, and you feel
definitely like it's an achievement owning one, because I never thought, even up until a couple of years ago, I never thought that I would own a Rolex. And there was times when I thought I definitely didn't want to own a Rolex, but I suppose that's a conversation for another time. Well, we've got a couple of interesting news stories to go over, and then Kris will definitely dive into your interesting Italy trip, because it sounds like you not only went to some interesting boutiques, but you also made some purchases as well.
Yes, brought home some vacation watches.
Absolutely.
Plural.
Well, there was a story you wanted to go over first, and then I definitely want to dive into this this Speedmaster story.
Well, speaking of Speedmaster, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the new X33 Mars.
Yeah.
I saw that announcement, and I saw a couple of things on it that were sort of positive, because it was I would say like an advertisement, or like, part of the announcement of it. And then I went over to Reddit and I watched the subreddit watches absolutely rip into it. Just gave it absolutely no credit, and I was sort of disappointed with how this was received. Maybe not from the whole watch community, but I can kind of see some points. So let's kind of break this down. So first of all, This is a redesigned movement. This is based on the X33 Skywalker. They updated the movement according to the European Space Agency, the ESA. Mm-hmm. The ESA was like, listen, we're running, we've got 6 rovers on the Mars. We've got a helicopter up there. We're going to retrieve samples. So for people that aren't space nerds, the rover right now is going around and digging out these samples, and there's going to be an ESA or European Space Agency plan to go get those samples and send them back to Earth. And so they have a whole bunch of engineers and scientists, and they need to know what time it is on the planet in Martian time. And so Martian time is slightly different. And so what Omega has done is given us a movement that has Martian time on it.
Yeah, this was we talked about this a bit on the live stream, and we definitely approached it from the more jokey side of it. Like what Mars time, how useful is that to the average person other than a novelty? But I guess you could argue there's multiple watch complications that are definitely a novelty. But
right. I so for me, I 100% I would get this one. I would get this one over the regular X33. I think this is cool. I'm a super fan of Mars, and it totally lines up in that space nerd fan of Mars. And also, you're totally right. When was the last time you looked at your moon phase complication and was like, oh, well, the moon is waxing today, so that means the tides are... no one knows. Half of those after your moon, the moon complications probably not set right. I mean, I had to pull up my phone for 12 minutes to figure out how to set my wife has a moon phase. Yeah. And I had to, figure out how to get that thing in the right position. So a little bit of a, I guess a little bit of a, fun or, unusable complication, or a novelty complication is what you said.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan. I had the original X33, and to be honest, for my use, I was a little bit disappointed with it. It's the iconic one. It's the one that's been in space a ton. It's the original X33. Right. But the only problem is that this one has a negative display, whereas that one didn't. That had the positive display. These watches, if anybody's not familiar, these are Ani-Digi watches, if anybody's not familiar with the Skywalker line or the X33 line. And the problem with the original X33 is that the hands are white and it's on a positive display, and the display is not on all the time. So actually you've got white hands on a slightly whitey green,
like a Casio.
champagne sort of, exactly, like a champagne dial, and your eye doesn't immediately register it when you're looking at it, and I'm sure some people get away with it. So this X33 Skywalker, the first one, obviously went with a negative display with very legible white hands, and the first one, they've done several special editions of it. They did one for the plane that was going to circumnavigate, I think, the Earth.
Right. The solar powered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then they did a regatta one, which was a yachting one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two things that I don't like about this, and it's both of them are to do with the price. So first of all, I think this is way overpriced. I think it's way overpriced, because it's $6,400 for a titanium case with obviously a very high precision quartz ani-digi movement in it, but there's all the high precision ani-digi movements in Breitling watches, of course, and Seiko arguably make the best the F9 quartz. Arguably is the best quartz movement ever made.
Yeah, and to set the baseline here, the base one is I think retails for 4,000 something.
Yeah, I think it's closer. We'll check it actually, but I think it's closer to 5,000, because the other issue that I have with the price is that now, because this one's gone up in price, all of the second-hand Skywalkers on Chrono have gone up. So this is the problem, that it would be So the original, the standard one is $500 cheaper.
Okay,
at
but
5,900. Yeah, and the problem is that the second-hand ones are up at $4,000 now. I think this is a second-hand is a pre-owned is a $2,000 to $3,000 watch at most, because I have you've seen it in person as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Tried they had the boutique had the Regatta one in the store, and so I tried that one on just to kind of get a feel for it. And yeah, I see the thing. So that's interesting. So I thought these weren't up that high in retail. I thought these were like 400, like 4,400, 4,600, something like that. I could have sworn. So, but yeah, that's a big jump. That's a big jump. And you're right. It's raising the tide. It's raising all the boats here.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd be lucky to get. I was having a look the other day, and they're up around the $5,000 mark, pre-owned. $4,000 to $5,000. The ones that are at $4,000 seem to be private sellers with not a lot of feedback. This is on Chrono 24, and even the Solar Impulse one, which is arguably the least desirable, because it comes on a NATO and it's funky colors.
Funky colors, and so here's the interesting thing about the X33, that it surprises me. I never see them. Yep. No one has them.
Yep.
I no one on Instagram. I see them when I watch SpaceX launches. That's it.
Well, you're right, and there's not many reviews either. There's more reviews for the AP Black Panther, where there's only a handful in existence, than you'll ever find for the X33 on YouTube.
It's strange. Super. So it's like a super niche space watch that we've talked about many times, and then it is a special, well, not a special edition, but another edition, because they're not going to limit it, another edition of a super unique space watch that no one has. If I got a hold of one for a decent price, I would make sure to hit up Speedy Tuesday. I would go lousy with that hashtag.
Well, yeah, and the problem is that they were at one time, the Skywalkers were affordable, but when the original X33 went up on the Dragon, the SpaceX launch, suddenly I think everybody thought that the watches were going to go up in value, so they set the prices accordingly. I mean, I even overpaid for that X30. I bought it at the store, and I definitely overpaid for it. Back in the day. But anyway, yeah, it's an interesting, fun watch. I suppose if you're a real space nerd, then it's really, it's quite the novelty watch to own. It's not a novelty watch, but the having the Martian time is probably a novelty.
Yeah, exactly. You can be, you're like, it's Sol 38 today, and it's negative 120 degrees on the planet.
Yeah, the alarm on them as well. If you need a watch with an alarm that would wake the dead, either get a Breitling or get this X33.
What is it? It's something like 80 dB or something. It's something crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
well, next story. This is something that popped up on Hodinkee today, and following the space theme, that they think that Wally Shearer, or they're estimating that Wally Shearer's gold Speedmaster is going to come up for auction. And Wally Shearer was the first person to wear a Speedmaster in space. Mm-hmm. This was not the watch that he wore, the Speedmaster that he wore there. This was the one that was gifted to him. In fact, it was gifted to a number of astronauts for one of the Apollo missions that Omega. I think that's I always get my Roman numerals wrong. Is that Apollo 9?
At 11.
Apollo 11. So they awarded. Oh yeah, because the ones after. Yeah, so they awarded this to a number of astronauts, and his is coming up for auction. Apparently, one of these did sell previously for $765,000 in June, but they think that this is actually going to be more iconic, obviously, because Wally Shearer is more part of the actual.
Yeah. And it's engraved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one they think will tip the record. The record currently stands at $3.4 million for the most expensive Speedmaster that's ever sold. But that wasn't a space one. But this one they reckon is going to go up even more. And I can see it happening. I mean, do you think we'll see the sort of crazy prices now that the world economy is fluctuating?
I'm not sure, because I think this gets, these auctions, I feel, are always sort of detached from reality anyway. And, it's not this is like provenance. It's like it's solid gold. So it's already like, like this golden watch. Yeah. It already has some like intrinsic value to it. This is one of those things where, like, I don't care what the economy's doing, like it's going to be an outlier probably.
Yeah, you might never see. I mean, this is could be a once in a generational sale, couldn't it? Because it might never sell. But coming to think of it, the tachymeter bezel is not that far off the red that they used for that X33, is it? The matte
right.
one.
It's kind of a deep. Yeah, it looks like it's darkened a little bit. Yeah, that like the deep red, and they redid or reissued. I don't know, reissued is the right, but I've seen the gold. I've seen the gold Speedmaster.
Gold, is it called?
Yeah, and a gold Speedmaster in person. One of our OC Chrono Group folks is fortunate to have one, and I have held it, and it has got some heft.
Yeah, and I just noticed this as well. It's actually got his space missions on the back. So Mercury 8, Gemini 6, Apollo 7.
Yeah,
engraved on the back.
Yeah. So I mean, provenance. Provenance. Yes, there we go. My brain's still processing Italian. And we'll maybe breaking records here, quite possibly.
Well, speaking of Italy, I'd love to hear about your trip and the three watches that came home with you.
Yes. So we went on a much-needed post-pandemic trip to Italy. Part of it was a tour. We went from Rome all the way down to Sicily. So we did a southern Italy tour. my wife is originally, my wife's family is originally from there. So there was like Naples and Sicily in the family. And so that was a fun to kind of discover the origin and all of the little like food things that you sort of hang on to, like the way certain things are served, and and the food is, Italian food is just, it's amazing. So I'm I have eaten more, like I had swordfish.
Oh wow.
I've had more eggplant in 2 weeks than I've had in my life. It's like different there. I don't know why. Every piece of eggplant I've ever had in the States is like a piece of cardboard or a mushy pile. So they do it differently. A cappuccino for breakfast of champions, and then after 11, espresso anytime at cafes anywhere for like $1.50. So good, just so good, amazing. But interestingly enough, my wife Christine is a planner, and as you know, we're kind of driver, co-driver, rally. So that's her role as the manager planner. And she was like, "Hey, like what's going on with the MoonSwatch stuff?" And I was like, like they're not going to sell them online, and Swatch is being bad about it, and Omega and blah blah blah, and basically kind of recapped the last MoonSwatch conversation that we had with her. And she's like, "Oh, that's kind of a bummer." And then randomly she was like, "I wonder if if we're there and there's like a store. There's got to be like a store in Rome." And so we looked on the website, and she's like, "You're not going to believe this." And I was like, "What's that?" And she's like, "They have like 5 stores in Italy that have them."
And it will tell you online whether they have stock of them.
Well, no, but that they're available at the store.
Oh, they're one of the chosen stores.
The chosen stores.
Wow.
So we're looking, and like super high density, like we had San Francisco and Vegas. We didn't even get Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, Rome, Naples, Bari, Palermo, and I think there's one other store that I'm missing, right? In a like small area of southern Italy. That's just southern Italy. I didn't even go north.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're like, "Oh, that's crazy," right? And so so we talked about it, and we were like, "Well, we'll make some ground rules up. If it's not out of our way, if we swing by, if it's like close, if it's a walking distance, hey, maybe we'll swing by. Number 2, I'm not waiting in a line. I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting in a line. That's not happening. Number 3, we're paying retail. I was never going to buy these on eBay. That was never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And number 4, here's an opportunity to get something to remember the trip by. I think we've talked about that, like if it can happen, right? If you have the opportunity to get a watch while you're traveling, then it becomes the story.
Yes.
And so I was like, "Oh, that's great." So that's the ground rules, right? So we're in Rome, and we had some time, and we go in there, and they're like, "Oh, they're totally sold out." I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever, okay." Went around our day. But then we get to Bari, and it just happened to be we were there in the morning at like 10:30. And we come around the corner, and it was like 2 blocks away. It was easy. Come around the corner, and there's like 5 people standing out in front of the store. And I was like, "Oh, here we go. And we walked up. There were a couple of Swedish guys there. And so it was 2 Swedes, 2 Americans, and then like 5 Italian scalpers. So just as I thought, and now I've had this experience firsthand, this is basically what is happening is someone comes down from the apartment and sees what they have and stands in line and then calls all their friends. I've watched this happen literally in front of me, and they're like, they have this one and this one, and then 2 more dudes showed up. And so it was like, and that's what they were doing. Currently eBay looks like it's adding about $100 to the price.
So it's really leveled out now.
Yeah. So none of this like $2,500 that's gone. So they're getting, about $100 extra for the thrill of waiting in line in a store in Italy. So the 2 Swedes in front of us, pretty cool. One was wearing like a Rolex DHS. The other one had a Christopher Ward diver on, which was cool. And so I should have taken a wrist shot. I was like so out of it. And I'm like, crap, I should have taken pictures. But anyway, so we kind of have a little conversation. Well, through our process of like waiting in line, we were trying to figure out which ones they had. And they had a bunch of different models. We totally lucked out, and they had the Earth and Mars.
Oh, wow. Okay. So Mars is the very desirable red one that looks like the Alaska project.
Yep. And that was, as if you've listened to the podcast, that was my number 1. So I was super excited. Earth was Christine's maybe number 3. But she was like, at this point, she's like, I'm getting one.
So this is the green one.
This is the green one with the reverse panda dial, which is cool. I want to wear it too, and I'll definitely put that on. And so she's like, all right, well, we're getting one, right? So that we're like, this is cool. Then we have the story. Then we like go through the motions. They were only letting one person in the store at a time. And, I was like, so like, just like one at a time. And to the point where Christine went in first and then like came out and was waiting for me to go in and get mine. And she's like off to the side, and like all the scalpers are like, you can't be in line anymore. Just like, you can't get back in line.
Yeah, like they're like, the moral compass.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're like, oh, I see how this works. And Christine, I'm just waiting for my husband. Calm down. You'll get your $100 for standing in line today. So, yeah, great, cool wrist shot. Christine like wore it out of the store. And this is I think as a number 5, like as a bonus, if your wife is at all excited about watches, it's amazing, right? Like super, super cool. So, we had super cool wrist shot, Mars and Earth, and we went on our day. So, cool experience. Like I said, didn't wait in line I think we're in line for maybe 10 minutes, and that was it. So, but going back to what I said, which was there's like 5 stores that have them in the country. And so we kind of checked out another store. We were in Naples, and we checked out a store. It was just, just kind of, went by, see what they had, kind of thing. Sold out, fine, whatever, because, we're still like, maybe we can get the number 1. And so we finished up down in Palermo, and the store in Palermo was, I think, 1,000 feet away from our hotel room. So we were stalking it. And we went over there on like a Thursday, and they were like, Thursday afternoon, and they were like, oh, we don't have any. Okay, fine, right. So we're like, they'll probably, but they don't get any on Monday, or sorry, they don't get any on Saturday. Sunday is closed. You know, we're not going to be there Monday. So I was like, all right, so Friday's kind of one shot. And so Friday morning, we zipped over there. And as like after I think we went on a walking tour and then came back when like the store opened at like 10. And we walk in and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we only have one color. It's the Uranus, like Tiffany blue, light blue color that was my wife's number one pick. We're sorry, that's the only one we have." And she's like, "Shut up and take my money."
Wow.
So I was super happy. And over by the counter, there was like a little like, well, we have one, but this woman was on the phone, like trying to figure out like if she was going to buy it or not. And there was like, you know, and so there was a little bit of, I don't know if they had more in the back. I don't know, but it seemed like it was the last one. And wow. So she was super excited about that. So we packed up 3. I have already ordered a white sort of not the FKM, what is it? The type of rubber. I already ordered a white rubber strap for it for mine for the Mars watch.
Is it like a fitted end link one?
No, but I was thinking about that. Who does? Maybe
I think Horus and a few others do ones. I think I have seen one with a fitted end link one, and it doesn't quite. I think there's some movement there in it. You'd have to probably look up some reviews. So I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised because I've not even. I got so wrapped up in just bent out of shape with the whole thing that I've never really thought about them since, to be honest.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I really did want one at the start. I would have bought one. If I could have got one, I would have bought one. If they sold them online, I probably would have bought a couple.
Yep. Yeah. You know, as I said in the beginning, it had to be the 4 criteria because I was like you. I was over it. And it was only my wife's excitement in potentially getting one and being like, "Oh, you know, this is the MoonSwatch that we found in Italy, and you know, and it's a fun color or whatever, and you know, and then we bought it on vacation, and it's a story." And so, yeah, she turned me around because you know I was certainly a sourpuss about the whole thing on the last, like. But again, and I think Federico talks watches. I think Federico spelled this out in his video, and it was the same thing. He's like, "For God's sakes, do not pay over retail for this. For God's sakes, do not stand in line for these stupid things."
Well, that raises an interesting point. So you've bought 3 of them, which you know, in money terms, is getting up there as a $750 to $800 is a decent mechanical watch. What's your honest opinion of the value? It was more sort of a holiday purchase, so I know sometimes you'd cost it, but if you're sort of like black and white, what do you think it's worth the $250?
So there was at one of the stores, I think they also had the sun, the yellow, but it wasn't on either of our lists. And I was just not interested in it. And at one point we had a quick conversation like, well, I could get it and just list it, or I'm sure one of my friends would want to buy it, or, you know, maybe no one specifically, you know, people asked me if I could get another Mars, and I wasn't able to do it. But the yellow one, you know, like we could have gone back to the store and maybe gotten it. But I was not interested in being a part of any of that eBay scalping machinery, so that was off the table to sort of like, you know, recoup my costs. I agree with your first point. I think it just files into a vacation thing where you're like, yep, we're gonna have dinner and we're gonna have wine and we're gonna have dessert and cannoli and and you're like, the bill comes, you're like, yep, I'm in southern Italy, it doesn't really matter. So I think it would be a different, I think it would be different if I don't think we would have come home with 3 if it was, if it lined up, or if I had, if it was like available in the store local, I would just wait for the one that I wanted and then just went and got that, and then wait for the one that my wife wanted and went and got that. But I think because of the sort of rarity of them, Christine was like, she's like, I want one. And she liked the green color. It was certainly on her list. Unlike mine, my second pick was Mercury or the Moon, and they had none of those.
I really like that Mercury one. Actually, I would, if one was offered, but I'm so over the whole idea of it now, and to think that they've not even been able to ramp up the production enough now that. Right, they can sell them online. I don't know. I mean, we've been down this road so many times, haven't we? Discussing it and
So I mean, and all the things, like it's a this is a purchase that doesn't necessarily make sense. And I agree with you. If we could only have if I could only have picked up 2, that's what I would have done. But it was just a scarcity thing. So Omega or Swatch. So you got me, Swatch. You got me. But it was super fortunate to line up in that way, and I'm super excited about it. It's a cool conversation piece, and like I said, I didn't break any of my rules, so I'm not going on. So don't go on eBay and buy these. Just if you have an opportunity and you want one, go get one if you can get one. But other than that, it has to be.
There's some pre-owned ones that are, $465, $440, but the brand new ones are still $500, $550 on the US eBay. So,
well, I was looking at the finished finalized listings.
Oh yeah,
if you look at and I saw a lot for $350, $400.
Oh yeah, 375 one went for,
yeah.
But a lot.
So
I think a lot for. Oh, actually, is that a couple? There's one. Yeah, there's a couple. I think the one that's still garnering the most is the one that looks like the Speedmaster, isn't it, with the grey case?
Right.
The Moon one.
The Moon one, which was on our list.
Yeah, the yellow one's not going for much at all, is it? I mean, they took a best offer at $395 on this one on eBay.
Yeah. So like I think the pink one is pretty hot. The blue one is pretty hot. The yellow, I think, is as well. There's a bunch of people that what was interesting about the, like, again, if I could have Omega do it again, why would you release all 12 of them or 11 of them or 10 of them, whatever it was, like, why would you just flood, like, guys, do 3 of these at a time,
I never understood that. Yeah, I've never understood why they didn't just make, I even mentioned this in that video that I did, where they should have done 3 or 4 of them and then just focused on those ones.
Right. And but as far as the styles that are available, it is surprising to me, and your eBay search kind of pans this out. It's surprising to me. There's ones that I do not like. There's like the Saturn one I'm not interested in at all, that people absolutely love. And so it's sort of like, it just, and I've heard the same about the Mars one. Where so there's one there that strikes, that's, that strikes your fancy kind of thing, which is cool. I mean, that's the kind of the good side about there's one for you. The bad side is, this goofy hype beast limited, but that's the story. So so we had great weather the whole trip. Had a really, really fantastic time. I mean, Italy is a pretty amazing place. It's funny, they call themselves like a melting pot, which kind of caught me off guard because that's very like a USA thing. We're like, oh, we're a melting pot. And they're like, yeah, we unified in 1860. I was like, oh, we have 100 years on you. So, yeah, great. Like the people there are great. It was a cool experience. This is my first big, European trip, but I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I think that I've been monitoring, for some reason, I've just been monitoring G-Shock a little bit more over the last couple of months. I think it was since I did that review of the NASA G-Shock, the orange one, which went out of it sold out, but then they bought it back, and obviously with the whole Bamford thing as well. But they've really experimenting with a lot of stuff at the moment, and I was just thinking the other day whether it was a response to the MoonSwatch, because they bought out a bunch of different colors for their their core line. They've bought some great ones that are graffitied, that they've some real, they look like they've been properly graffitied by a graffiti artist, and they've obviously they made the much coveted Cassiope actually in metal, where they put a whole metal case and bracelet on that Cassiope watch, and they did one in rose gold. I feel like they're pumping out a lot of really cool stuff. Not all to my taste. I actually would pick that NASA one up again. I think the one that I reviewed, because I actually went off to somebody got Sunil, who joined me on the show. He actually he let me review that before I sent it off to him. But I think G-Shock maybe in response to it. But I mean, G-Shock have always been.
Yeah, but no, I think you make a good point, and maybe even sort of like with the Rolex colors too. I mean, I think like the trend right now, this like vibrant, brightly colored, because maybe 3 years ago it would be like, ooh, we got a green one. It was like a very, like, oh, they brought out a blue one, like super. But now, that it's purples, pinks, greens, like the camo stuff. They're going with a bunch of different styles. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's been a really interesting show. I was really interested to hear about your 3 MoonSwatches. Yeah. Once I saw them, you posted on the Discord group, which if anybody wants to join, you can join the Discord group. But yeah, as always, guys, we really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.